Kia, let me try to explain and give you some answers to these your questions. You asked that explain the challenges to the realization of the dream of Pan-Africanism or a Pan-African continent. So actually, we do not want to achieve a dream of a Pan-African continent. What the forefathers wanted to do is to achieve a Pan-African nation. A Pan-African nation means that we should have all the African people on the continent and the people of African descent under one nation. Okay, so that is the Pan-African nation, not necessarily the Pan-African continent, which they wanted to achieve. They wanted to achieve cohesiveness. Militarily, we should be under one system. Central bank, one system. Economic policy, one system. Okay, all these things, one passport, one communication system. So that was the Pan-African. Now, what are the challenges? The challenges have been mostly the colonialism and imperialism. Okay, those are the problems. You go back to 1400. Okay, when actually we were just closing on the kingdom of Mansa Musa Songhai, which was the most flourishing, the most prosperous kingdom that time, when it was closing and the Europeans invaded, and the Arabs invaded Africa. So that is where the problems started from. So that has been the challenges, rebuilding that trust, building that confidence, the belief that we can have one nation as Africans. So if you look at Mansa Musa, is one of the most successful people who was able to build Africa, sort of a Pan-African nation inside the continent, because he was able to combine a lot of kingdoms, Niger all the way, Nigeria, all those parts. You see Mali where it is, even parts of Ghana where it is, Gambia, Senegal. You see, he was able to carve up the continent, the biggest part of the continent, and put it under one government. So he succeeded to some extent. So the biggest challenge that has been here has been colonialism and neo-colonialism. Ever since we broke from slavery, when Haiti abolished slavery, it has been transforming. Okay, so they came and they enslaved our people. After enslaving the people fought against the slavery. That was Haiti. Contrary to what anyone tells you, that they abolished slavery, it was not the whites or the Europeans who abolished slavery. It was Haiti. Haiti is an African country. When you go there, the people look like you. Okay, it's an African country. These people rose up against colonialism and the slavery. That time, the superpowers were France, okay, and Britain. Okay, so they rose up and they defeated France. This Napoleon, which is the whites normally praise that he was a military general, he was not anything. There was a general called the Toussaint Louverture in Haiti. So I want you to go and read that story in a book called The Black Jacobins. The Black Jacobins. The book is called The Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James. You read about the Haitian Revolution. Napoleon was defeated by an African and African slaves. So don't buy anything which they are telling you that Napoleon was a great general. He was not a great general. There was a great general called a black general called the Toussaint Louverture from Haiti. Okay, so they defeated the French. So in 1804 they got independence. Okay, Haiti got independence. Now, as if that was not enough, when slavery was abolished, when the Africans fought against slavery and slavery was abolished, these people, they went back to Berlin in 1884 and they carved up the continent. After taking the people from the continent, now enslaving them, when the people fought against the slavery, Haiti, 1804. I want you to quote the years. 1804. The slavery was outlawed and it was, abolished and stopped. Even though it continued in some extent, small, but that was the genesis of the beginning of the abolition of slavery. It was Haiti, 1804. 1885, they went back and carved up the continent and came to colonize it. Okay, so these whites, the same Europeans, these whites you are having in South Africa, the same group, okay, who are running around even in the World Banks and whatever, these are the same whites, the same people. So they carved up the continent and they came to colonize it. Our forefathers, they stood up again 1947 and they fought against him. Ghana achieved the independence 1957. Okay, so when it achieved the independence, Ghana, then Dr. Kwame Gonza started pushing for the unification of Africa. Okay, so he was looking at all these histories. So when he pushed for the unification of Africa, they realized that he was unleashing a force on the continent. He was unleashing the potential of the African people. Okay, He wanted to rebuild the African personality, what they call the African personality. The African personality, it means our culture, the cultural reconstruction of Africa, not only the economic and the political reconstruction, but the cultural reconstruction. He wanted to begin the process of cultural reconstruction. So he talked of the African personality. So when Kwame Nkrumah was there and he was pushing for a united Africa, as you know, he wrote a books, and I encourage all of you to go out there and read them. So Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966. Okay, now in 1966, when he was overthrown, that is the period when neocolonialism consolidated its power. But neocolonialism started when power was transferred to the United States. These Europeans, when the United States arose and they went to the Bretton Woods Conference, that is where they crafted the tools like the IMF, the World Bank, which are going to be used in the work of neocolonialism, the new colonialism. So now what we are talking about, slavery. They came from slavery, and then they went to colonialism. Now they are in neocolonialism. So they used neocolonialism to keep Africa back, to take it back, you see, and that is where we are. So the problem of Africa, contrary to what they tell you, contrary to what anyone tells you, this and that, corruption, that is not the problem. The problem is that we do not have control over our affairs. So they plant leaders, the ones where you have seen this. I don't even need to repeat this. You have seen puppets moving around the continent. Musa Faki, these groups, Ramaphosa, and all these groups all around the continent, all over East Africa, all over West Africa. You can see France is doing whatever it wants on the continent, and no African leader is there to stand up to say anything. So that is the period where we are right now. We are in a period of neocolonialism. Okay, interference, that when those African leaders, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, they come up and they want to unify the continent so that we can take responsibility. Okay, you remember Kwame Nkrumah said that we prefer independence. Okay, we prefer independence in danger than servitude in tranquility. So what he means is that we want to take responsibility. So when we take control of our political system, that means we can take responsibility of all our problems, including being responsible for saying that we are corrupt. But we cannot say that we are corrupt when the political system is imported in the continent. So I would say that is the challenge. That is where we are. And right now, the forces right now which are inside is that Pan-Africanism is working, but it has not been strong enough. It has been weakened to some extent. It was weakened especially by the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But the Pan-Africanists are still there. They are working. Don't be lied to that they are not working. The Pan-Africanists are working. Okay, they are working, and they are moving forward, even though at a slower pace. But the Pan-Africanists are working. At this moment, there is a movement which is going on. We have always realized our salvation has always come when we have realized that there is a weakness in their system, and we have seen the weakness. We have seen that they don't pretend, they have been pretending, and what they pretend to be is not what they are. You have seen how their health system has been decimated. You have seen the economic collapses in the West. You have seen Donald Trump himself, coronavirus he caught him, the British Prime Minister, coronavirus. They are not special people. These people are not anything. They are not anything which they pretend to be. Okay, they are not special at all. They don't have special knowledge. So all these people, these things which they have been doing, they are lies. They have been spreading lies all over and destroying economies. So you have to understand that the system of politics which they have been spreading is the one which is the cause of the problem, because they want to stay on top and stay dominating Africa. This divide and rule, whatever, all these are tactics of retaining the continent. When they tell you that South Africa is the better, Ghana is the better, Ghana is no better than anyone. South Africa is no better than anyone of the other Africans. We are the same people. Okay, so the resources in the Congo, those are the things which you are supposed to focus on. The resources all over the continent, all you people belong to the African nation. Okay, so the resources which are in the continent belong to you. So whether you are in South Africa, the resources in the Congo belong to you, the resources in Uganda belong to you, the resources in Egypt, they belong to you because you are African people. So don't let anyone lie to you that you should focus on the GDP. GDP is empty. Is empty. When they tell you South Africa has a GDP of 500, that is empty. This is temporary, riches. These are riches, but the wealth, the real wealth is in the people themselves, the people, our market, our resources in the ground. That is the power we have as African people.